Good morning. I almost feel like I sound too loud. Yeah. I'm having to whisper, so. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Nunez. I am a student of Lama Jinpa. Today, I'm going to speak to you on the 5 certainties, and I know that it was recent that Patty did a talk on the 5 certainties. Mine's a little bit different because this is related to Tantra, and specifically related to Yeshe Tsogyal's autobiographical account of her life. And I want to just explain that her autobiographical account can differ from the historical records. So it's a little different than if you were to look into the historical accounts of her life. Our experience with Tantra so far has been hand mudras, Tara mantras. We're all kind of just stepping into that territory, not really understanding it. We just touched the surface. And I want to start by talking about some of my inspiration comes from my darshans with Lama and our communication back and forth related to what Tantra practice is really about. And it's the popularly held beliefs only seem to emphasize one thing over others, right? So I won't go too much into detail with that. But I'm going to start with my understanding. And I'm going to start with a quote by Carl Jung. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So when I start to talk about this and my understanding, I'm going to start with a dream that I had when I was 4 years old. So you know those dreams that you have and they just kind of stay with you your whole life? So this was interesting because I was visiting my grandparents in Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they had a very small house. So they didn't have room for me. So they put me in the basement on a cot to sleep at night. I was 4 years old. Well, and it gets worse. My grandfather was also in the basement. They created a separate room and they hung up some curtains to kind of separate him. He was dying of cirrhosis of the liver from being an alcoholic. And he was just feet away from where I was sleeping. So as a 4-year-old in the basement on a cot, I could hear my grandfather moaning while I was trying to sleep. It was very weird. And I had a dream, and I want to share that with you. I was going to Tomorrowland Nursery School, which I really did go to. I went to Tomorrowland Nursery School. And me and the kids were playing in the sandbox, but I was kind of playing by myself, which was not uncommon. And a monster came out of the sandbox and started burying each of the kids one at a time into the sand until I was the last kid. And so I looked at the monster, and I wasn't afraid of the monster. And I told him, the reason why you're doing that is because you want to play with those kids. You want to be a part of what they're doing. But because they're scared of you, you can't. So I tried to rationalize the monster's actions to say that this is why you're doing that. If you just stop doing that, then they will play with you, right? And so the monster felt bad about what he did, and he unburied all the kids, and the kids couldn't remember what happened. So everything was good. And I did tell the monster that I would be his friend, right? So then my parents came to pick me up from Tomorrowland Nursery School, and they took me to Toys R Us. This is the fantasy part of my dream. They took me to Toys R Us, and they said I could pick out any stuffed animal I want. And I picked out a monster that just happened to look exactly like the monster in my dream. So I owned and loved my monster. That's largely what we're going to talk about today. It's really owning and loving our monsters. Carl Jung used the term shadow, our shadows, so I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. Often we discover our monsters when we act in ways that lead to shame or remorse. The more we cage the monster, because it takes a lot of energy to cage the monster, the more it creeps out in forms like projection, where we become triggered because we see ourselves in others but don't like what we see. My dream has some good advice. Make your monsters your friendly companions. So how do we do that? Jung said we do it by embracing our shadows and becoming individuated people, becoming who we are meant to be. In Buddhism, the idea is that you become fully who you're supposed to be so you can go beyond that to the no self. This is transmutation is talked about with Carl Jung, and it's also brought up with Pema Chodron in her books, this idea of taking that energy that we use to suppress our monsters and transforming it for better uses, almost to be so cognizant of what we're doing so that we can be purposeful in doing something better. Tantric characters. So when we're talking about tantric characters, first of all, is there a way I can make this thing quiet? Because I don't like hearing myself. Tantric characters can look like monsters. They seem X-rated. It's filled with gore, drinking blood from skull caps. Oops. So here's my, you've heard Lama talk about the leaky vessel. This is my leaky skull cap. So gnawing on human flesh. It's an exercise, Tantra is an exercise in facing what we fear or loathe, forcing us to be face to face with our monsters. The practice of Tantra, so the practice like what we've been doing, harnesses all human faculties. And actually, this is sort of my explanation that I kind of worked through with Lama to make sure that I was understanding it. The practice of Tantra harnesses all human faculties and physicalities using multiple yogas, making it an engrossing experience. So you're visualizing, you're doing hand gestures, mudras, you're speaking mantras, you're doing all of this stuff at once so that your body becomes fully engrossed in the experience, and your body becomes like a vehicle to take you to the places that you need to come to terms with, until you feel nothing when you face your monsters. They become illusions. It is supposed to be an expeditious road to enlightenment as you merge with the ecstatic, pure mind and bliss of the universe. So when I talked to Lama and I gave him, I think this is what it is. Is that what it is? He said, there's more. It's bliss. It's not just that you overcome everything and that you move beyond it. It's that you're in this state of pure bliss. All right. So what we're going to look at feels kind of like mythology. So I have to throw Joseph Campbell in here. The cave you enter holds the treasure you seek. And if you were in meditation today, you will notice that you inspired me to find that quote, because I had heard that quote before. But Patty had talked about entering the caves and how we do that, or especially bodhisattvas, right? They go into the cave to come out differently, to have attained something. So going to these dark places, right? I'm going to talk about heroines, right? So we have Persephone's that descended into Hades or hell, right? We have Alice who went down the rabbit hole, right? We have Dorothy that went into the witch's castle. And then we have Princess Yeshe Tsogyal, who went to the land of ominous jungles. So you've been warned. She's a princess, but this is no Disney story. The Life and Visions of Yeshe Tsogyal by Drima Kunga. This is the book that I read about Yeshe Tsogyal. I keep all of my books on my Kindle, which is on my phone, so I don't have like a great book to show you. It is considered a terma. So actually, she wrote it. So he is just the translator. Drima Kunga is the translator, but this is autobiographical. It's considered a terma, which is a hidden teaching. And actually, Yeshe Tsogyal did a lot of work because she was the primary consort of this guy, Padmasambhava, if you know about Padmasambhava. And she wrote a lot of his teachings, and she actually hid them all around Tibet so that they could be found when the time was right. And I did hear one story of somebody who had a little statue of Buddha, right, that they found, and then they dropped it, and out came a terma. So treasure hunters, they're out there. All right, so she's believed to be an emanation of Tara, who was born around 777 CE in Tibet. So this is a mythical autobiography. She was a princess who wasn't really interested in that lifestyle. She was very attractive, so she kept running into problems of attachment, right? That people would want to attach because they appreciated her aesthetic, right? So princesses wanted to marry her. They were fighting all the time, and she had absolutely no interest in this. As a matter of fact, it was an annoyance. She really wanted to study the Dharma. She wanted to be a spiritual person. But because of her position, she was constantly kind of being bartered off. And she was defiant. She fought, she fled, she was beaten. And when I say beaten, she was beaten with thorned whips. So she was beaten in a pretty ugly way, naked, while she was naked. I believe there's probably some sexual abuse in there. She always remained dignified and committed to what she believed in studying the Dharma. She, after a very harsh conversation with her parents, where she let her father see her wounds and say, I can't believe you said you loved me, and I'm the daughter you raised, and look at me. And according to her, the guilt caused him to allow her to go to the land of ominous jungles. Now, mind you, the historical accounts are going to differ. While she was in the land of ominous jungles, the prince that she was supposed to marry came and abducted her, shackled her, forced her into marriage, and she was miserable. So, and he would say things like, stop being so bold and speaking so stubbornly. So for some of the women in here, there's going to be some things in here that we don't like to hear, but it will also be familiar. So with this prince, she tried to talk down her lineage. And then, so I'm going to be reading somewhat from the text now, because some things I don't want to have to paraphrase. So this is coming from the text. At that moment, a white-colored man appeared. His hair was knotted around a crystal at the crown of his head, holding a turquoise vase. He spoke to her. You have previous good karma and fortune. Your mind favors positive acts. You are a woman with the utmost faith. Ground your thoughts and actions within mindfulness. Faith is an ally that carries you along the path. Who do you think that was? That's right. She did not think he was human. And then he goes on to say, my name is Lotus Born. I have disciples in India spread out from east to west. What is my aim? I've come to accompany you. And then she says, if you are the Lotus Born king of Udayana, and you would be my companion in spiritual practice as long as you hold me with your compassion, then isn't this the right thing for me to do? Is there some way you can free me from the prison of these iron chains? Lotus Born of Udayana told her, if you want to practice, princess, I will accompany you. Slip this jeweled band on the ring finger of your left hand. Meditate on me in the form of an adept at the crown of your head. Follow me wherever you go or wherever I go, harboring no doubts. And then he literally carried her off on a flying horse. So it was said, in the open sky, he, the prince, saw the prince, remember the prince that she's escaping from, saw a male and a female couple, a hero and a dakini, flying in the direction of India. So the prince was so sure that the king was behind this act that war almost broke out. So this brings us to certainty number one, the certain or perfect teacher. So if we are to look at this text as an example of the certain or perfect teacher, they should come to you on a flying horse, right? Okay, so then you think, okay, the certain or perfect teacher. We know that Padmasambhava was probably one of the best teachers that you could possibly have in Vajrayana Buddhism. I wouldn't even say probably, was. So she certainly had the certain or perfect teacher. But then for us, we have to consider what are the characteristics for the certain or perfect teacher, particularly when we're going to a dark place, like will happen when you're in Tantra. So this is, again, coming from the text. Then in the place called Samye Chimpu, which is equal to India's cool grove charnel ground, the princess and lotus-born of Odiyana lived and practiced together without a moment's separation. So in talking to Lama, he said that the relationship was, it was very close. So they were more like not just teacher and student, but more like soulmates. They were very close. I don't have much goodness and wisdom, yet I managed to meet a Lama like you who embodies the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Moreover, since we women have these bodies, my knowledge is trivial and my character spoiled. As someone at a major disadvantage who lacks faith and courage, I implore you to give me instructions in a few words with great meaning so that I may swiftly attain enlightenment. You guys, are some of you women feeling what I'm feeling? Great disadvantage, huh? Okay. Guru Rinpoche replied, attractive princess, listen well. Due to your birth in a woman's body and scarce cultivation of goodness and wisdom, swift enlightenment will be a challenge. Birth as a male leper or as a woman with courage, these are both positive, but each has a flaw. However, if you have faith and perseverance, there's a chance you will attain enlightenment. Princess, give up your plans for this life. Without holding anything back, dedicate your body and life force to cultivate your experience of these ultimate instructions for meditation. This charnel ground of Samye Chimpu is a site where dakinis and furies visibly gather. Stay here and retreat for 12 years and apply these meditation instructions. Then he flew away with the dakinis. There's a lot of flying going on. But what was it that he said? Did you guys catch what he told her? Without holding anything back. So here we have our teacher, the perfect teacher. At the right time, the right place, the right circumstance. He comes across as a hero on a flying horse. And his first bit of advice was, don't hold back. Surrender. I know that Lama has talked about this too. I just keep thinking of the song by Cheap Trick, right? Surrender. Okay. So now we're going to look at number 2, of the 5 certainties, which is the certain or perfect teaching. This one's a little longer because now we're going to look at her experiences. Some of them are very surreal. They're quite dark. And I've warned you. You've been warned. But we're going to look at what she learned from those dark tantric teachings. 1 month later, a white-collared woman appeared at daybreak before the entrance of her retreat hut. She knocked on the door with a crystal staff. The princess told her to open it. The woman did, looked inside and asked, "What are you doing, princess?" "I'm cultivating meditative concentration." "As you do this, do you have faith?" "Yes, I have faith when I meditate," which is a pretty low bar, don't you think? It's easy to have faith when you meditate. That's not when you're challenged. You may have faith, but it is not true faith. In my country, we have true faith. The princess considered this. I have seen the actual Buddha and Guru Rinpoche of Odiyana himself, and no faith is greater than this. So she sounds a little proud and haughty, right? A little full of herself. This thought bolstered her self-assurance. The woman knew what was in her mind and replied, "Follow me, princess. I will show you authentic faith." She led her by the hand, and they arrived in the country where the land was white. A grandiose king sat there, white in color. He was handsome and youthful, his body lavishly adorned. Everyone gathered in the square and looked humbly toward the king as they did forceful prostrations with their body. Removing their jewelry, they offered it to him. As gifts, the parents presented their sons and daughters. Children offered their mother and father. Those most skilled in respectful service freely lavished the king with wealth and jewels. So this is Yeshe's first vision with this woman. Yeshe asked the woman why the townspeople lavished the king with jewels and gifts when he wasn't given any spiritual teachings or anything. The woman scolded Yeshe, telling her that she had no faith, and then replied that he actually embodies the spiritual teachings, so that sometimes you're a witness to a spiritual teaching that isn't necessarily being spoken. Another time, the king flayed the townsfolk's bodies, ate their flesh, and drank their blood. Yeshe was shocked and asked why he did that. The woman replied, "Townsfolk regard the king's actions as good no matter what he does." The next day, the king told everyone to eat rocks and drink poison. They did. Their teeth shattered and they fainted en masse. The next time, the people set themselves ablaze as an offering. The lady said that they were willing to offer everything: their wealth, health, and lives, their body, speech, and mind. Does this sound like a lot? So remember, this is metaphor, right? So what is it really telling us? What is it telling you? You're free to, it's not a rhetorical question, it's a real question. What is it telling you? Yes, right? You have to be willing to give it all, that you can't really be attached to anything, right? Not even your bodies. She took the princess by the hand and led her before him. "Great king, bless this princess to quickly liberate her from the lower realms." The king responded, "Princess, do you have authentic faith or not? If you have faith, I can give you my blessing." "I do have authentic faith," she answered. He said, "I know whatever your mind holds." Are you kind of getting the sense that they're all mind readers here? They keep saying that? Yeah. "Princess, that faith of yours is not authentic. You view your Lama and me, the king, as separate. This is authentic faith. Everything I do, you see as excellent. Everything I say, you take to be true. Everything I give you, you are ready to consume. Everything I ask of you, you are willing to do. Everything you possess, you gladly offer. You have to be like the people of this town." Her companion told her that her faith did not measure up. I mean, that's a pretty tall order, right? Her faith did not measure up. So she took her to another place. So this brings us to lesson number 1 in the story. Authentic faith in the teacher, which is our Lama, the Dharmic teachings, and the resulting experiences, right? And just like Padmasambhava said right before she left, don't hold back. So you have to have faith and you have to surrender. And that's hard. So that's lesson number 1 of the perfect teachings. Then she took her to a pool where beautiful people bathed. One naked woman ran frantically, supplicating with blood flowing from her eyes. The companion told her that these people were washing away their impurities. The frantic woman knew that she was running out of time. She would not be able to finish in time to reach spiritual attainment. She didn't even have the time to clothe herself. I felt like that was for me. In this palace with the pool, they were to find several examples of liberation. It was a palace of imbeciles with thin throats and fat bodies. The king severed his leg and threw it at the people. He asked Yeshe why she was there and why she wasn't worried she would run out of time. Her companion said, "As things stand, princess, you will not gain freedom. Look at the woman by that pool and the king in this palace. You spend your life in constant laziness. You have no time for enlightenment." Utterly disheartened by her own lack of diligence, the princess fainted and collapsed. When she revived and regained her wits, she, looking at the king, he melted into light, and she saw him attain complete manifest enlightenment. The woman left the palace. At the poolside, that harried, naked young lady held a bell and a vajra in her hands. Seated on rays of light, she flew into space. They watched her attain complete manifest enlightenment as well. So now that brings us to lesson number 2. What do you think lesson number 2 might have been based on what we've just read? Actually, the opposite of put your clothes on, Sue. No time to lose. Shanti Diva, right? Isn't that what he was saying? No time to lose. So I'm going to paraphrase, get off your ass and practice diligently. And then personally for me, don't waste your time worrying about what you will wear, right? All right, so lesson number 2, no time to lose. So this should be a priority. That's what I'm getting from that. We're so concerned about our careers, our families, our friends, the things we want to do, experiences we want to have. What this is saying is this should come ahead of all of that, right? If you're going to go down the tantric path, you really have to you have to surrender, like we learned in lesson number 1, but also you've got to decide you're going to do it now because you don't know how much longer you have. You keep putting all these other priorities ahead of that, you're putting off your ability to attain enlightenment. Okay. The companion took her to a place of blue, now this is me talking, blue Amazon-like women. So they were big and they were blue, with human corpses on their laps. In this palace, people were doing heavy labor, moving 100 corpses in a vessel. So then they asked Yeshe, okay, grab a vessel. We got some corpses for you. And Yeshe politely turned them down. I'm good, thank you. The large woman insisted, if you do not shoulder this load, there is no way you will enter the palace. This iron vase is the vessel by which you will receive spiritual attainment. As for the corpses inside, they are what you will use to request it. Offer them as a ritual feast. And again, Yeshe said, no, that's good. I'm good. They shut the door tightly behind the pair, which concerned Yeshe. So one of the things too, when Yeshe enters different palaces, or this particular palace, you will see times where she's like, they'll say like she's eyeing the door, like she wants to be sure there's a way out, right? So she's all of this time, she has not completely surrendered to the experience, which is kind of when they were talking in the beginning, you think you think you're there, but you're not. So what we find is when she's actually having these really bizarre experiences, she's always looking for a way out, like where's the exit door? When they arrived, they saw a crowd of people holding gold bars the same size as their bodies, shaking and staggering. The joints of their arms and legs cracked. Everyone wept and moaned loudly. The princess asked them, even as your bones break, you still carry these gold bars. Why are you doing this? The group answered, after we offer these to the king and queen in the palace, we can claim the reward we crave. The reward was a ration of food. Now, I'm not a scholar, right? I'm reading this and understanding it from my perspective that isn't necessarily a scholarly perspective, but they carry gold to offer to the king, and in return they get food. Why does this remind me of my life? Right? I present this offering and I do all this work, all this heavy labor, and I get food, and I'll need more food if I'm doing the heavy labor, right? I'm going to require more. So it's this like samsaric circle of getting the gold to get the food and needing the food to be able to carry the gold, and you know what I mean? It's like samsara. Okay. The princess considered this. Each day, driven by hunger and thirst, all those people are bravely willing to do what they must. If I compare myself to them, I'm disheartened by my own lack of courage in relation to spiritual practice. She returned to the palace door with her companion, who shouted, Great adept, open this door. A large woman, different from the previous ones, appeared. A lot of large women. Tall and dark blue in color, naked and radiant, she had red eyes and excellent hair. This time she opened the door. They entered and found themselves on the ground floor of the palace, where a crowd of women had gathered. Among them, the large ones ate flesh and drank blood. The small ones peeled the skin from the soles of their feet and ate their own flesh. So this sounds like she's entering the areas of the monsters, does it not? I mean, we talked about monsters. We have our monsters. We dream about monsters. She's now coming face to face with her monsters. This is the land of dakinis and furies. The chief among them eat flesh and drink blood. They are the most powerful ones. Their servants consume their own flesh and blood in the hopes of ascending to the ranks of chief. Do you understand? Well, do you understand? The princess thought, for all their courage, they hope for such a small reward. Compared to them, someone like me is appalling. I don't even keep the spiritual teachings in mind. That is the worst fault. So Yeshe is interpreting this as really dedication with no limits, limitless dedication. As they ascended to the middle level in the palace, there was a king and a queen with 3 eyes. The king told the queen, give a pill to those dakinis and furies. Each one swallowed it, melted into light, and ascended into space. The princess saw this and thought, now, you know what you'd be thinking, right? What would you be thinking? There's an enlightenment pill. Nobody told me. Here, you guys want an enlightenment pill? If I have that pill, I won't need spiritual practice. This is enlightenment itself. I have to request one as well. Please give me a pill. Now it starts to sound a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, right? She asked the queen, who replied, you were unwilling to carry that iron vase filled with 100 human corpses. Therefore, I cannot offer you a pill. Only those with courage can receive it. So you know she's feeling pretty low now. She doesn't get a pill, right? Then they ascended to the upper level, where there were victory banners made of human skins and supporting beams made from human skulls. So you notice that there's always this thing with human bodies. It's not like it's a cow skin, which we would be okay with, right? It would be leather, but it's a human skin. So what does that make you think? The fact that we keep seeing skulls and skins and drinking blood and eating flesh. And that's all kind of giving us the heebie-jeebies, isn't it? Making sacrifices, yes. Yes, that's right, facing all of these things that you fear and loathe, absolutely. And we are kind of attached to our bodies. I'm not ready to have someone start gnawing on me, right? And also just it is attachment to the body, but it's also this idea of getting you to recognize it as not you. You are not the body, right? The body is a skull and limbs and skins, and right, but it's not you. Okay. A large crowd of women gathered there, where they saw their princess's companion. They all prostrated to her and touched her feet. Delighted and overjoyed, they cried, our chief lives in peace, has come back from her tour of the Tibetan people's charnel grounds. This is my home, said her companion. And I always felt, too, like this person taking her to these different places kind of reminded me of Scrooge, right, with the 3 different ghosts. This is my home, said her companion. Now return to your own place, where there is a bounty of amazing spiritual attainment to gain. Saying that, she made a show of pointing to the palace door. It's time to go. I can't go there and manage on my own. Won't you come along? The princess pleaded. I don't have time to go with you. I have to stay here and protect the lives of these adepts who uphold their tantric bonds. Leave here bravely. Before, your fault was that you lacked courage. Isn't that why you didn't receive an uncontaminated pill? Go and don't doubt yourself. All right, so she's saying you need to, you saw what didn't work out well for you before, so now you need to make those changes, right? In order to leave the palace and get home, the blue Amazon women, so of course this is me paraphrasing, wanted something, right? So the blue Amazon women, she's trying to get out the door, and now they want something again. So she offers her flesh. Here, you want to bite? They said they didn't want that. They wanted her, so this kind of also reminds me of Dorothy. They wanted her to kill a mother tigress and her cub in the jungle and bring it back. So it's kind of like going into the witch's castle. She has to steal the broom and bring it back to the wizard, right? Yeshe went to the jungle where she found a weak mother tigress and her dying cubs. She felt so much compassion that she had to save them rather than kill them. So she took a stick and started hacking at her flesh until it was bleeding, and she offered it to the mother tigress and her cub, and they fed off of Yeshe's body. Bathing in the prince's gaping wounds, the tigress, hang on one second here. Things moved a little too fast. The tigress looked at the princess with such intense love that tears fell like rain from her eyes. The tigress offered to Yeshe the corpse of another mother tigress, which Yeshe took back. When she went back with the tigress' corpse, she was escorted by a red woman into the palace. She saw some people were being born amid joy, while others died weeping. Several people carried others as they flew into open space. Others were walking backwards. Some enjoyed a feast of food and drink. A number of them had human bodies with animal heads. Others were arguing with one another or fighting in large armies. Seeing these things made the princess sad and uneasy. She asked her companion, "The way these people behave, the way they're doing things here, it's all haphazard and doesn't fit together. What is this?" Kind of sounds like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, right? Human bodies or animal bodies with human heads, or human bodies with animal heads, people walking backward, probably walking on the ceiling or crawling on the ceiling, right? It's very freaky. The woman answered, "Your channels and circulating energies are disturbed, and your mind is perceiving things impurely. Get a hold of yourself. Everyone gathered here is a hero or dakini by nature." The princess meditated on the circulating energy according to the woman's instructions. This caused all the bizarre, vivid insights she had seen to fully resolve down to the slightest. That gave rise to pure perception in her mind. She saw many groups of heroes and dakinis gathered on the palace veranda. Then the woman said, "Princess, since you have directly resolved your channels, energies, and vital essence, you have been introduced to the mother and child clear light. Therefore, we can both depart for the palace at the eastern gate." They headed to leave the eastern gate. Beside that sacred circle stood someone who said, "I am the awareness holder who dwells on the enlightenment stages." White in color, that awareness holder smiled radiantly and spoke to the princess and her companion. "I fully confer upon you the 21 base empowerments of the peaceful and wrathful deities, and assign to you, princess, the secret name Dorje Doodle Ma, Vajra, demon subduer." It's kind of like going back to the wizard. He gives everybody, right, a different identity. That brings us to lesson 3. Shouldering the ugly, difficult load with courage, knowing you can prevail as long as you have wisdom and compassion, right? And the load started with the vases with 100 corpses. She wasn't willing to do it initially. After 12 years had passed, Lotus Born returned. Gosh, 12 years, finally, right? She asked him for songs of meditation and instruction. He explained that while she knew some, she did not know all. Now, I'm just going to warn you, I know that my talk goes over time. Do we want to hear what Lotus Born had to say? Well, I got one yes, because it's going to make it longer. Okay. And this is only one of several. I picked out the best one. Consider what this means, Lady Lotus. When you reflect on death, that is the time to practice. Not only that, it's almost too late. I have words of heart advice for you, so pay close attention. Worthy and faithful woman, and do as I say. To begin, among the underlying causes of the round of rebirth, the mental afflictions of desire cause utter misery. In the cliff nests on the mountains of stupidity dwell the small birds of ruinous anger. They cling with bias to the roar of pride and ride the gales of jealousy. The mother who accompanies you is desire. Her children that you meet are mental clinging. And the enemy you gain is fixation on outer appearances. When you ascribe singular existence to what is non-existence, the round of rebirths in the three realms arise with its 6 kinds of beings. Once you recognize this, everything is an expression of oneness. If you don't recognize this, each and every suffering will be yours. During the interim state, if you roam from place to place, as soon as you encounter the trigger of delusion, both birth and decay come to pass, leaving you burdened with the karma of pain and sickness. In the ocean of death, transition, and misery, this is how you are reborn into suffering. Does your wild mind not see this? Do not be numb to the teachings that inspire you further. You don't have time to be distracted, Lady Lotus. If you lack stable footing with the all-embracing expanse, your mental consciousness is like a wind blowing across the wide plain of your repeated habitual actions. These forceful circumstances, your treacherous companions, cleverly trick you as outer appearances. Foster perseverance, Lady Lotus. There's a lot going on in that. So, gaining certainty and great perfection, she achieved the transformation from an ordinary state to a body free of defilements and gained the spiritual attainment of life free from birth and death. So she became enlightened. In the historical accounts, it is said that this happened in 7 months. Pretty good, huh? So some of these I kind of want to ask. So we can go ahead and open it up to questions and discussion. But so we've only gone through 2 of the 5 certainties. And I don't claim to have all of the answers. So some of these I want to ask. The third certainty is the certain or perfect place. In the story, the certain or perfect place was ominous jungles, charnel grounds, which is it's graveyards, right? Bizarre kingdoms with strange, crazy kings, right? And with minimal supplies and sustenance. When you think of the certain or perfect place to begin a practice where you would be doing something like Tantra and really facing your monsters, what is for you, do you think, is the certain or perfect place? I mean, for her, it was a dark place. What do you think? Any ideas? What is the certain or perfect place? Right there. You got.
So when you were talking, I was thinking a lot about renunciation of your body, renunciation also of like ordinary appearance. And so I think the perfect place is you're kind of renouncing your ordinary appearance, and it's really where you are, but you're renouncing what you see as ordinary. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Any other ideas? What's the perfect place, the certain or perfect place to begin such an intense practice?
It can't be anywhere other than right here, because where you're practicing is in your mind. So, I mean, it can't, it's not like going somewhere.
That's a really good point, Susan. So I'm thinking if it's in your mind, then what kind of a place should that be? Do you do it when you feel chaotic? I mean, so this Tantra seems pretty challenging. Do we enter that into that when it feels very chaotic?
That's why they have shamatha meditation.
Okay. That's one of the tools. Okay. I saw Patty's hand go up. Did your hand go up?
You know, I think the perfect place is um, for me. The perfect place is here, just like Susan said. I think so because here I've you know made a decision to stick with it, and you know the kinds of things that are difficult. This is kind of a place where you can face those things and then learn to not project those things. And so in that way, our teacher kind of sets it up that way. He might have you work with someone you wouldn't expect to, for example. And then that way you start to see things you wouldn't, because in our normal lives, we arrange our lives so we don't really have to look at certain things with certain, so that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, so let's ask the next question, the certain or perfect disciple. So there is a little story with this. As Yeshe went back and is now an enlightened being, 7 outlaw thieves came to her camp. They stole her only sustenance. So she was an extreme minimalist. She lived off of flour, right? So I guess she was making bread or tortillas or something similar. But that's all she had, and they stole it. And they would say things like, your face is lovely and your manner reserved. You're easygoing, good at housework, and you're an expert cook, right? Every woman wants to be good at housework and an expert cook. You're attracted to our eyes, yet you live in an empty, deserted land. That's sad. Follow us and you won't suffer from hunger and thirst. She meditated on how to awaken them. And this is part of what she said. Since you outlaw thieves, do not enjoy spiritual practice, you are like a pack of deranged beasts roaming the barren valley. People living without practicing lead empty, wasted lives. Your skill set is worthless. I gave up my life to ensure hardship for spiritual practice. If you desire, you can eat my flesh and blood. So then she does that again. Here, you want a bite? What do you want? What do you want? Whatever you want, I'll give it to you if you think that's really what's going to do it for you. But she's saying, you're so foolish, you don't recognize that what you think you want isn't really what you need. So what do you think they did? What did they do? That's right. They became her disciples. So who is the perfect disciple? We're all disciples right now, aren't we? In this room. Who is the perfect disciple? So I'm going to repeat what Sue said. She said, someone who offers themselves to you. So some of the teachings, we have to be open. We have to trust in Lama. We have to trust in Dharma, right? Everything that we've been talking about. Any other ideas about the perfect disciples? Right?
Perfect teachings. And then the third step was
Perfect place.
certain place.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, isn't that leading towards being a perfect disciple?
Certainly. Certainly. And we could even throw in Buddha's last words. What were Buddha's last words? Anybody remember? Practice diligently. So the perfect disciple does all of those things and practices diligently. And is ultimately willing to surrender their ego. So now we're at the last one, the perfect time. What is the perfect time? Anyone have any ideas? When's the perfect time? You say now. Why do you say now, Susan? Okay. Now. No time to lose. No time to lose. Shanti Diva. Again, no time to lose. Anyone else? When is the perfect time? You know, you hear about these people. I'm thinking of you right now who say, yeah, I'm going to have kids someday. Once, once I've got, I've got the right house and, and once we've had this amount of money saved up and then, I mean, I've known people who've done that, yeah, I want to have kids someday. And they end up never having the kids because it's never perfect, right? It's never completely, there's always going to be something. So you almost have to accept a component of chaos. So the perfect time is the perfect time right now for everybody. What do you think? It could be. So the perfect time is now is the only time. I also feel like, well, when we're talking about Tantra, because we're talking about this in the context of Tantra, you're facing your monsters. Why? Yes. You want to bring her the microphone?
No, for this depth of practice, you need to be prepared and you need to have the support. Lama always talks to me about having that basis of support before you jump into something that you can't handle and you're not prepared for. So I think for this practice, particularly of quick enlightenment, you have to have the support system of the Lama, the teacher, the Dharma. You have to really be ready to do this. It's not just everybody anytime do it. You can't go into your monsters until you've got some basis for support for what you find. Like she had that guide to kind of
Right.
run things through. And so I think it's not always just everybody now.
I think that's an excellent point, Susan. So now I want to read to you something that Lama sent me that he wanted to be included that's related. The 5 certainties are a journey of hearing the teachings and applying them, experimenting with them, testing ourselves, asking questions, getting the right balance of support and challenge. Gradually, confidence emerges, a flexible certainty that is big enough not to always know everything. So we're perfect doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do everything perfectly. And we're going to have the perfect experience. It means that we go down that road under these different, using these different ideas that we were talking about, being completely open. I would say, I think it means not having too many expectations, being open to the experience, being whatever it is, and just not giving up, persevering. All right. Like my dream, find your monsters, right? And then put them in the form of a stuffed animal and cuddle with them. Thank you. If there's any other questions. Are there any other questions?
Anybody online, maybe?
Okay. Do closing prayers.
Thank you, Linda.
My pleasure.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Excuse me. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always, unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losang Drakpa, I make request at your holy feet. Are there any announcements? There won't be any in-person services next weekend. Okay, hang on. We'll let Patty talk.
There'll be recovery at 9 and meditation at 10 here. And then online, Dirk will be giving a talk at 11 o'clock. So we'll keep going because of the kindness of our friends. Oh, and then in May 15th and May 17th, we're having a visitor, Kongsa Rinpoche, and there'll be more news about that to come. And then I'm going to look to Susan in case there's something that I'm missing. Okay, so that's all of our announcements. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but he's going to be speaking like in May, not in April. Okay, there's no that I'll speak with you more about that because that might be still happening. So the Kala Chakra, but
All right, thank you, everybody.
Omo araya pacayana indi Om araya pacana indi Om